Even. Hey, Pickle. Aren't I watching the game work? Why would I? I don't really care. Because I don't really care about the Game Awards. Shit, I don't even know what games came out this year, frankly. Was Tears of the Kingdom this year or last year? Oh, hey, Habibi. And actually, Life is Strange Double Exposure just came out, that's right. Not that it was a particularly good game. Hey, Scapegoat. PS5. I do own a Switch, which I never actually play anymore. I haven't played in like 2 years. PS5, nope. Last year. Well, there you go. So yeah, the consoles I own a Switch, and I actually do own a DS. Shit, I forget if it's a regular DS or if it's the 3DS. But anyway, I do own a DS. Still have that fucker. Which again, haven't touched in forever. But yes, I do have a Switch, which I played like very shortly after I first moved in here. And that was it. Still play your 3DS XL. 5 is more than 4. That sounds like math, and math is fake. Math is a lie. All of it fake. Actually, on the top, come to think of it, on the topic of PlayStation, I will need to get myself a PlayStation controller soon to plug into my computer, because I am still playing Final Fantasy V. And then I'll need to play Final Fantasy VI. So before I finish Final Fantasy VI, I will need to get a PlayStation controller I can plug into my computer for when I get to the, 7 and onwards. Do you think JZ is innocent? Innocent of what? I was unaware that JZ was being accused of anything. And yes, I call him JZ because it amuses me. JZ, ZZ Top. It just amuses, like, whenever somebody does it just amuses me to actually call it Z. Because I'm Canadian. I'm Canadian. We call it Z. So being Canadian, it's just, it amuses me. The way I see it, you gotta get your entertainment where you can. I'd rather go to a freak off or to NYC for a day. I mean, probably NYC for a day. I think probably NYC for a day. I don't know what a freak off is, so. I don't know what a freak off is, but it doesn't really sound like my thing. Doesn't sound like my kind of scene. Not my thing, you know? Danny hosted freak offs. So that does sound bad. Ooh, new Jen St. Ange art. Aw, cute. Artist I really love, Jen St. Ange. I'm subscribed to her Patreon. So she just released some Giant Days fan art. Just got an email with some Giant Days fan art. It's so cute. I absolutely love Jen St. Ange. She is just one of the absolute best. So good. Someone told me I'm sharp as a marble. Decent line, decent line. Anyways, new episode of Star Trek Lower Decks was very good, as usual. So how's everyone? Hollow deck leave you with a hollow dick. Realistically, that would be one of the main purposes of a holodeck. Get laid. Sounding. Well, shall we get into the game? Shall we get back into the game? What I wouldn't do to ride down forehead ridges. Yes, let's get into the game. Last time, we left the sanctuary. We left our sanctuary so we could find the woman we're going to marry, who's handling it all pretty calmly, actually. So, glad to be free, I rush off to join Piper in the carriage. When I open the door and step into the carriage, January greets me warmly.
Hello.
Welcome back. I hope Key hasn't given you any trouble. Not really. Glad to be back with you, Piper. What did Key say to you? Hey, Jordan. Lowbrow. I can't really do Piper's voice very well. I'm certain you could guess. You're the smartest person in our group, and Key is rather predictable. She smiles, but I can't tell if she is genuinely pleased with my compliment or not. I certainly can hazard a guess. Well, I better get to the controls. Someone's got to drive this thing. She moves into the control position near the front of the vehicle, then begins flipping switches and things to get it fired up. The steam engine roars, and the whole vehicle shudders as it comes to life. Piper picks up the radio and presses a button. This is Piper calling Key. You read me? Key's voice crackles out of the radio. I hear you. Sound quality's not so good on these things either. Yeah, how about you be grateful we have them at all? How about your police station stops having such low quality equipment, Key? Burn! Piper laughs lightly. No need to get so uptight about it. Piper out. She clicks off the radio and sets it aside, focusing again on the controls. She pushes a lever and the steam carriage chugs forward. January looks out the window with a grim expression. I shake my head. As usual, he can think of nothing but his own petty concerns. Like not dying. "2 days. Just 2 days. I turn my gaze towards the front where Piper is driving and happily sigh. Yes, 2 days. The carriage rattles along as it moves, but the ride is smooth enough. Despite it being the peak of the afternoon, it is rather dark inside the passenger compartment. We must keep the windows covered at all times on the off chance anyone is around, which is perfectly fine with me. I already have a flawless view. Keeping all my focus on Piper, I immediately notice her reach for the radio speaker again and begin talking to Key. So, Key, how do you want to use these radios? Should we leave them on all the time, or turn them on only when we need to talk to you? I wouldn't want to distract you with our conversations. Right, about that. The radios have to remain on the entire time, and there will be no chatting. Keep things as quiet as possible. You expect us to spend the whole day in silence?
Yes.
Yes. Unless it's an emergency, no one should say anything. Are you being serious? Did you not hear me the first 2 times? You cannot blame me for needing something so extreme reaffirmed. What kind of requirement is that? I need things quiet so I can pay attention to the surroundings and notice possible dangers. What is more important than that? Finally being able to have a full conversation with Piper. Nothing, of course, but I don't believe what you're asking is necessary for our safety. Well, I do, and it shouldn't matter if it's on or not. You'll have plenty of time to chat with your boss after this trip is over, and there isn't anyone else you should want to talk to. I dig my fingers into the lining of my seat and glare vehemently at the radio speaker. I am so upset it matters not at all that it is an entirely useless endeavor, as Key is not only somewhere else, but they wouldn't be able to notice my look even if they were in the carriage, considering I always wear a mask. It's the thought that counts. Oh, it is the thought that counts, as they say. It's always so weird when I end up on the same wavelength as a character in a game. It always throws me for a loop when I make some stupid comment and then the game makes the exact same comment. Being on the same wavelength as video game characters, like, okay, well. I understand. We'll be very, very quiet. Piper makes a casual motion that causes January to gasp. He then starts to chuckle softly. What happened? She turned the radio off. Ahaha, that's wonderful. You're wonderful.
Don't mention it. Literally.
Clever. This is nice, but won't Key know you shut it off? Piper takes her hands off the controls for a moment to face us directly. Actually, no. This model doesn't have an indicator showing whether the other end is on or off. Since theirs is presumably still on, we'll be able to hear Key, and can turn it back on to respond when needed. But for now, they won't be able to hear us.
Honestly?
So you don't mind us having a conversation? Well, that depends on what the conversation is about. I cannot help but be amazed by how she was able to handle this situation. You're dazzling. Indeed, very cunning of you, Piper. Don't give me too much credit yet. I didn't do it just for fun and games. There's something important we need to discuss, and it's for the best to keep Key out of that loop, if you understand me. Piper wanting to speak with me is more than enough. It doesn't matter what the subject is. Piper turns back to the road ahead, but continues to address us. So, Duke, why did you cover for Seer? She addressed the question to him? That's disappointing. Seer is certainly abnormal. That outfit is too authentic to be otherwise. And their actions betray them even more than their clothes. We're going to be working together for a little while, so I feel it's important I know. It takes a few moments for him to gather his courage, but when he finally speaks, he does so firmly. You weren't aware of this, but Seer showed me my future.
Is that so?
Really now? Yes, when we first met. By showing me my future, Seer has done me a greater service than almost anyone. I think it proper to extend what little assistance I can in return. Brazenly lying and breaking the law seems like an odd way of doing that. I mean, he's rich. What does he care about the law? Rich people don't have to care about the law. Yes, I don't quite understand why he went that far myself. The decision was made rather impetuously, I admit. Nevertheless, had that not been done, I am certain there would have been no other opportunity to repay Seer. They would have remained in police custody, and I never would have seen them again. I look to Piper to try and gauge what her reaction is. She is simply silent, and for a time she appears locked in thought. The lack of a reply makes January uncomfortable, and he shifts around slightly in his seat. I am sorry if that doesn't seem like a satisfactory reason. If that's all there is to it, it doesn't matter if I think it's satisfactory. Thank you for understanding. Is there anything else?
Thanks.
That's fine for now. I'll let you know. Well, I am pleased I won't have to pretend to be something I'm not anymore, at least while Key isn't around. Honestly, you didn't seem to be making much of an effort before. I tried my best. It was not an easy task to ask of someone. I'm sure I'll be able to manage keeping it from just Key, though. Unless, are you going to tell Key what January said? I don't see why I would need to. That's somewhat a shame. That means I must continue keeping my distance. But if Piper thinks that's for the best, it's for the best. January looks wary over her glib reply, though he doesn't point it out. Well, thank you, Piper, again. Yes, it is truly admirable the way you're willing to assist lowly people such as us. You are my goddess. Thanks. The praise isn't really necessary, however. Telling Key about this would only make things more complicated. If a situation comes up where Key needs to know, I'll tell them. I can't imagine a time when Key would need to know about that. I can't either. Still, I thought I should bring it up just in case, you know? I completely understand. Oh, excuse me. It was intelligent in more ways than one for us to have this conversation, as it just reminded me of something crucial. I do not wish to be a bother, but I must ask a favor of you. In order to maintain this charade, I told Key what my true, normal name is. From now on, I would be grateful if you could refer to me by Jamie. Also, please call me She from this point on. That was another piece of information Key asked about.
All right, then.
I can do that. So kind. That won't be any trouble, Jamie. Excellent. After a moment or two of silence, January clears his throat and turns to me. Well, seeing as this facade will be maintained, I think I better help you understand a little bit more about my situation, Jamie. If the topic comes up, it would be best if you could answer accurately. If I must, explain. Thank you. I appreciate your willingness. To begin, I'll tell you that I inherited the title of Duke from my mother, Duchess Vian, as the oldest and only child of the last person to hold the title. I gained it when she passed away 2 years ago. All who live eventually stop? Yes. In any case, the reason I was in Meow yesterday was to meet with the mayor. Why that was is irrelevant, so you don't need to say anything about it if asked. Otherwise, I spent all my time at my family's home on the surface. Hey, Scrapecoat. Yes, Scrapecoat. And I suppose that is about the whole of it. There isn't much else in my life worth noting. What an empty life for someone so, apparently, important as you are. January just laughs, but he doesn't meet my eyes again, instead looking towards the window. Well, I will do what I can to keep all that in mind. Though, as I said, I'm not worried about Key. What could they even do? Worst case scenario, they could insist we go back to the city immediately. Do you honestly think they'd go that far? Piper takes a few moments to mull over the question. Probably not. I'm almost positive they'd demand that Jamie agree to go back with them after you've been safely delivered, though. I don't want to go anywhere without you, Piper. Right. Speaking of Key, it's been a while with silence, so I'm going to switch the radio back on for a bit. January and I nod wordlessly. Piper then flips the switch, turning the radio back on. We continue in an awkward stillness for a couple minutes, going out of our way to make a few noises such as shuffling or coughing. I even throw in a dissatisfied sigh for authenticity. The radio is then switched back off. That was not a very long time. Will it be enough? My goodness, January, you are a worrier. Of course that is enough. If you say so.
Don't worry about it.
It'll be fine, Duke. Key's simply being difficult. I see no reason we must have our end of the radio on indefinitely. I'd wager they're worried about what we'll say behind their back, or perhaps they feel as though it's only fair that we remain in silence, since they have to. Either way, it's not a horrible thing if we talk amongst ourselves. Piper, you are so wise. I never cease to be impressed by your deductions. Thanks. Alright. Well, what shall we discuss next? Whatever you two want. Do you not have an opinion, or would you prefer not be involved in the conversation? Both. Don't feel obligated to include me. It would be much better if you were involved. There's so much more I want to know about you. There's nothing else I wish to discuss. That's nice, but this isn't just about what you'd like. I have wants, and January is here too. Maybe he has an idea of something to discuss. No, I don't need to decide. She raises an eyebrow at his response and looks unsatisfied. Poor Piper, she's genuinely she's not really interested in us yet. I think she finds the whole we're going to get married thing to be kind of annoying. And our obsession with her to be just really annoying. Which, fair. Are you sure, Duke? You look as though there's something on your mind. Go on, tell us. I insist. Yes, please do. So we can have it be over with. Well, you see, I have a question I've thought of asking, but I am not certain of its propriety. I see. So, there are different opinions on what the topic should be. Must January always complicate things for me? What do you want to talk about then, Piper? As I said, I don't have a topic in mind. In that case, you should decide between our two ideas. My questions or January's. Piper's grin grows especially sly, and she adopts a face that seems just a bit too thoughtful to be serious.
Well...
If it was truly up to me, I think I'd like to hear the Duke's question. Naturally. Why would you pick January? I already have all the answers when it comes to myself, so that topic isn't very interesting in my opinion. I like that. That's funny. That's actually a really clever line. I sigh heavily. How can a response be so charming and so disheartening at the same time? It is settled then. Go ahead and ask your questions, January. Are you certain? I am. Now tell us. January smiles, but looks uncomfortable for all that. I wondered, did you ever wish that you lived in normal society instead? That's the question you've been so bothered by. Why does that matter to you? January looks a bit embarrassed by my pointed question. It's just that I have heard some things about abnormal towns, so I was curious as to what someone from there thought of it. I have few issues with it, until I saw my own future in normal society had no appeal.
So, where you lived before was nice?
His expression has become somewhat complicated. I'm not sure what answer he's hoping to hear. Yes, I was quite comfortable back in the sanctuary. I'm glad. All right. Now that that's over, we can move on to my questions. Piper's smile falters. She doesn't seem pleased by January's question of choice. I agree, it was a poor idea. Then the smile returns. Actually, I just thought of something I'd like to talk about. But, since you want to talk about something else, it can wait. Oh no, we can discuss what you'd like instead. I'm sure January is of the same mind. I give him a nudge with my elbow and he nods. Certainly. Thanks. So, I wondered what the two of you thought of Mia. January's brows furrow slightly. That's an unexpected question. My favorite kind. Why did you suddenly change your mind about choosing the topic? Because she genuinely doesn't want to get involved in me fawning over her some more. Simping. She just really wants to avoid my simping, that's why. It doesn't matter. If I recall, you had a rather unexpected question yourself. True. Hey, Bonzi. Thank you for reading the dialogue out loud. Must have listened and glance when I watch YouTube and appreciate narration. Yep. I mean, that's the whole point of playing of it. Like, if you're playing a visual novel on stream, you gotta read the dialogue. If it's not voiced, then I mean, you gotta. Like, that's the point. Like, if you're playing a visual novel on a live stream, or on a game, like, if you're, like, recording yourself playing a visual novel, why would you not read the dialogue out loud? I mean, it's just... Hey, Dini. Marvel Rivals. I have not. I mean, it's not the type of game that would have appealed to me to begin with. You know, player versus player shooter game, it's just not my kind of... It's just not my kind of thing. Beyond that, while it's not really a Disney... Like, I don't know, like, what sort of royalties Disney gets from the game, but I did make the decision to not give Disney any more of my money a few years back. Because I am opposed to how much they're trying to be a monopoly, you know, how big they are, a lot of their business decisions I just do not agree with. I'm on a chill game kick. I'm playing a lot of Stardew Valley. Yeah, those kinds of games don't appeal to me either. I refer to them as chore simulators. January got a long neck. He does. He does have a really long neck. He's just like, the dude is just stretched out in general. You know, like, they took a normal-sized dude, like, it's like someone took just a normal-sized dude and just stretched him out. Really bad OCD, and it kind of helps, kind of feeds it. Yeah, I'm not OCD, so... I find those sorts of gaming loops just get tedious. One thing I will say about Marvel Rivals, before I get back to the game, one thing I will say about Marvel Rivals. Jeff the Land Shark is apparently a monster. From what I've been hearing, Jeff the Land Shark is an absolute menace, and I appreciate that. I remember when Jeff debuted in the comics. He was so weird, and it was just such a weird idea, and so cute and fun, and I just, you know, loved it. Loved him. Can't hear a land shark without imagining the SNL skit. Yeah. He's a shark with legs. Baby shark. He's a baby shark, though. So he is very small. And I imagine that actually contributes to making him, like, probably pretty hard to hit in Marvel Rivals. He's probably just, like, it's probably just because he's so small. Makes him harder to hit. And, yeah, then he just, like, murders everybody. Land shark knocks on your door. Yeah, I haven't seen the SNL skit, so... Anyway. I'm just glad that Jeff the Landshark is a proper menace in Marvel Rivals. Anyway. True. I enjoyed Meow well enough, even with the intrusion. I'm not entirely sure I'll return, however. I wasn't terribly impressed.
Interesting.
Really? She stops for a moment to think. During this break in the conversation, my own thoughts start to wander. Suddenly, it strikes me that we're likely going to have meals together. I hadn't thought about that. Earlier, while we were at the station, January insisted we stay in our room and not interact with the police until the others arrived. Because of that, neither of us had anything to eat whilst we were there. Usually I would not be pleased by him telling me what to do. However, I did not want to associate with the police people regardless. Not to mention, I was too preoccupied with thinking of Piper to care if I ate or not. Still, Piper and I's first meal together. What a marvelous occasion! Alright. Do normals have meals together, or I've never eaten with someone else before? I don't think this is one of those choices that actually matters. Like I think this is just sort of like a flavor choice, like flavor text kind of choice. I don't think it actually makes any difference to the story. Never eaten. Anyone else have a preference on which option I should go with? Looks like no, so I've never eaten with someone else before. Both Piper and January look confused for a moment, but something quickly dawns on Piper.
True.
Ah, abnormals eat by themselves. At least when they're old enough to feed themselves. Precisely. Is that going to be a problem? I will be fine. Thank you for worrying for me. So, if it is fine to ask, do abnormals eat in their room, or...? We eat in our rooms after getting a meal from the serving area.
I see.
I must say, I have some sympathy for the chefs. Cooking in a cloak must be somewhat of a challenge. We are not that simple-minded. There is an alternative outfit one can wear when performing a task that requires a higher amount of movement. Fair. Yeah, you'd have to, like... There'd have to be. You know? One of those things, like... We're not idiots. Yeah. Like, there's going to be, like, we have solutions, dumbass. Oh, I'm sorry for assuming. Thank you for explaining it. I do what I must. Would it be too much to ask to know about the kinds of dishes you make there? No, not at all. I cannot see how any of this would be dangerous for normals to know about. In that case, I would also like to know about that. It was already decided, January. Now let me think. We engage in this sort of talk for some time, periodically stopping to turn the radio on to make sure Key doesn't get suspicious. How much you want to bet Key knows exactly what's going on? After a while, I begin to actually feel hungry. It's hard to tell the time in this confined carriage, so I haven't the slightest idea when we should have a meal. Piper, could you turn the radio on and ask Key about meals? I want to know when we will get to eat. Hey, Sable. Cozy now? Have a drink soon for the holidays? Nice. Not a bad idea, especially after that last conversation. She brings her finger to the switch. Act natural. That makes me chuckle. Hey, Key, I just thought of something. What are we doing about meals? There's a slight crackle before the voice on the other end comes through.
Oh?
Hmm? The rations are stored in the passenger area of the carriage. Eat whatever you want. Good to know, though I wouldn't be that liberal with our supplies. We may have more than needed, but it's still the only food we have out here. Wah, right. Forget what I said about eating whatever you want. There are going to be limits. Are you going to eat with us then, Officer Key? I'll eat when we stop for the evening. We have to keep moving for now. In that case, we're going to have lunch. Fine, just do it quietly. I don't want all that noise to distract you. Maybe we should turn the radios off while we eat? The radios stay on. Alright, I was just checking. Piper quickly flips the radio off and turns to us. I'll be keeping this on for now. As soon as we're finished, I'll turn it off again. Sound good? January and I both nod, and Piper swiftly hits the switch. Key can be so difficult. Start looking for the food then, you two. The two of us turn around and begin searching, he up high and me down low. After a moment, he announces that he's discovered something and pulls down a box. What's on the menu? Seems like mostly packages of preserved foods, and some fruit. You should each have one bag and one piece of fruit. That'd be the healthiest thing. Whatever you say. I reach into the box and pull out 3 packages, handing one over to Piper and another one to January, while he picks up 3 pieces of fruit and gives one to each of us. V8 Energy, Apple Holiday Spice. Have a mixer with it. Sounds fun. Piper bites into her fruit, an apple, but sets the package aside without apparent interest. I frown at the packages. Maybe we could stop after all. How are we expected to eat this whilst in a moving vehicle? Piper and Key both say no at nearly the same moment. But if we stop, you could join our meal, Officer Key.
You know.
I told you I'm fine. I had plenty this morning and we've got to get as close to the halfway point as possible today. While January begins eating his fruit, I turn away so that neither he nor Piper can see my front. I then lift up my mask just slightly so that I can take a bite of my fruit, a pear. Are you alright, Jamie? I quickly pulled my hood further inward, further forward. I am fine, January. This is how I have to eat. What do you mean? What are you doing in there? I sigh loudly, making a clear effort for Key to hear it. I have to eat sitting on the floor and put the container on the seat. There's not much room in here, can you understand that? Oh. January leans some more towards me and speaks softly.
My apologies.
I'm sorry, Jamie, I didn't mean to trouble you. I should have realized. I just wave his words away. We continue to eat our fruit in silence for a time until January chuckles slightly. It seems like all of us are hesitating to eat the packaged food. With my partner in a tiny condo, and I actually hate getting drunk or even buzzed. I mean, I'm not gonna judge you for having a couple drinks. Why? There's nothing wrong with that food. You all shouldn't be so picky. I examine the package again and think the food looks dry and very unappetizing. I think I'll have another piece of fruit, actually. We don't have endless fruit, you know. What do you think, Piper? Is there enough for me to have 2 fruits? Look, if you're so set on it, you eat your entire meal now, and then if you still have an appetite, you can maybe have another fruit as a snack before dinner. You shouldn't just eat fruit for lunch. I groan and look dismally at the packaged food. Finishing this seems an impossible challenge. I'm so focused on the task at hand, it takes me a while to notice my shoulder is being nudged. It finally registering, I look over to see January extending half of an apple to me. Here, Jamie, you can have mine. There's no need for that, Duke. You and Jamie both have enough of yourselves. Jamie seems to like the fruit more than I do, and I really don't mind, officer.
You can't.
I disagree. You're much bigger than Jamie, or any of us really, and you should be eating the most. Jamie is just being childish. Actually, is one of each even going to be enough? I doubt those serving sizes were designed with giants in mind. Key mumbles something too quiet to make out distinctly, something about forgetting just how big those food rations are. I awkwardly hold January's apple half, unsure of what I should do with it now. I assure you I am quite comfortable with the amount of food I have left. That's no excuse. You may feel fine now, but what about later? January appears about to resist again when Piper speaks up.
Let's stay calm.
Really, you're all being so particular. If the Duke gets hungry later, we can always pull out more food. When I said we should be careful, this was not what I had in mind. Piper's interjection stops our conversation entirely, and we all say nothing for a moment. Piper's right. You don't need to baby January, he can manage. Piper laughs unexpectedly at that comment. So, you're more of the tough love kind of bodyguard, eh? Right, of course. The Duke needs some toughening, he's too meek and scrawny. God damn! Dude! If that's the case, you're not doing him any favors by taking his food.
Pardon me?
Please, everyone, there's no need to worry. I can indeed take care of myself. There is another brief pause, which is eventually broken by Key. I think you should eat an extra piece of fruit with your food package, Duke. That should be good. In that case, I think I would benefit from a second piece of fruit. Even though I'm shorter, I have muscles that need to be maintained. Yeah, I'm sure. Remember that you're supposed to be quiet. I scoff, matching Key's tone, but Piper cuts in between us.
Don't worry.
Don't worry, Key. We'll be quiet. With that, conversation stops when we finish our meal in silence. The carriage ride dragged on for a while, but never seemed dull. After our awkward meal, we were able to resume our chatting, turning the radio on and off as necessary. Eventually, Key calls in over the radio and says it is time to find a place to stop. We follow the gadabout to a spot beside a river, sheltered by trees that allow the waning light of evening to filter in. As we pull into the clearing, both vehicles come to a stop, and we all exit. January stretches his long limbs with a gratified sigh.
Splendid.
This is really just splendid. We should set up a fire and have a proper campsite.
I'm afraid not.
It's really not cold enough to justify taking the time to start a fire. Besides, we don't want to be seen, and that would be a dead giveaway. Good point. January frowned in disappointment. Key walks over towards us, their brow bunched up. You all did a good job keeping quiet during the trip. Better than I would have expected. Their tone is more suspicious than pleased. I scoff. What did you expect? We're professionals, after all. Key just stares, but I can tell they have not been convinced. If we aren't setting up a fire, then I will head down to the river. Hold on, there's no reason to do that either. You should head back into the carriage and stay out of sight. After all that time? No, I would prefer not to. I sigh. It is obvious January is going to make this difficult, as always.
It's fine.
I'm pretty certain no one followed us. There should be no danger in letting him stay outside for a bit. Why let our guard down? Someone could begin watching us at any time. In fact, Janie should really go back too. Your look is a bit conspicuous, even if most won't know exactly what it means. It is shocking to be included in that way, but her logic is sound.
trust me.
I know it's a pain, but it's better than being abducted, right? If you have any personal business to take care of, you can do that quickly. Other than that, I don't see why you would need time outside. Yes, why would the guy with incredibly long legs need time outside to stretch them? Yeah, both of you are going to have to go back to the carriage. That's an order. Come along, January. He doesn't move, still staring at Key. Look, I'm the only one here with any authority. Making decisions is my responsibility. Listening to him is yours. January looks at me for what to do now, and I in turn focus on Piper. She shrugs. Technically, Key is right about that. It would be less troublesome for all of us if you two didn't openly defy Key's orders. Key gives Piper a sidelong look. Openly? What are you trying to say with that? Inwardly, I can't help chuckling at how none of us really listen to Key. Piper just straightens her dress without looking at Key. It's been settled. You two need to head back to the carriage. Key's eyes reveal their irritation with the way she ignored their question, but the conversation has clearly moved on. That is frustrating. Like, you ask a question and nobody answers, and then everyone just moves on. And, like, you can't go back and ask the question again, because it's just... Everyone's made it pretty clear that they're talking about something different now. January turns his head away from us, still unconvinced.
I will be fine.
I see no harm in it.
Stop.
Hey, I told you to get back inside. It's for your own good, January. Come back. Fine, I will let you stretch your legs for a little while, but then it's back in the carriage. Gotta love that, like... Gotta love that shift, like, still trying to pretend they have authority. Don't do that. I'm gonna go do that. Fine, but then you're going to stop doing it. I'm going to have my lunch now. Piper shakes her head before heading towards January. I quickly follow her lead. Of course, Piper wouldn't let January walk all over her. You should have listened to Key. He should have listened to you. I mean, yes. Piper does seem like the more sensible one. Like, Piper does have a very good head on her shoulders. Like, she's just got a fantastic head on her shoulders. So yes, good idea to listen to her. My statement is ignored as entirely as Key's orders. It is disappointing. Miss Piper, thanks to Seer, we all know that nothing dreadful is going to happen. I don't need to be babied. That's not an excuse to be dismissive of the people who are trying to help you. Key gave me an allotment of time to remain out, did they not? I am listening to them now, so there should be no problem. That was only because you were being stubborn initially. She shakes her head, beginning to show signs of annoyance herself. This isn't a vacation. You can't do everything you want. January frowns and turns away to watch the water. I sigh deeply at his behavior. Piper, I must wonder why you agreed to come on this trip. It's obvious someone like you would have much better options than this. Considering I'm already here, it doesn't really matter, I would think. No, I believe Seer makes a good point. I too have wondered what you intend to gain by participating in this.
Well...
I have the kind of experience this expedition needs, and had time to provide it. A person in my position is almost obligated to help. Fascinating. What kind of experience? Among other things, dealing with bounty hunters. Remarkable! Really? And how does one come by such experience? There's really only two main ways of having experience with bounty hunters. Being hunted by them, or being one of them. Piper laughs lightly, though perhaps not so flippantly as usual. Now this is a proper interrogation, huh? Generally, people already know or don't care. January and I keep looking at her expectantly. If you must know, I'm not from Mier. I'm just vacationing here for a while from my actual jobs. I still work part-time, though that's beside the point. How ironic. You specifically pointed out how this was not a vacation, and yet the only reason you're here is because you actually are on vacation. It's a vacation for her, not for you, January. You're not on vacation. She's on vacation. And she wants to spend her vacation being hunted by bounty hunters. Piper gives a tight smile. Anyway, my usual work is as a cartographer and collector. Since I specialize in some expensive stuff, I often run into bounty hunters looking to make a profit of their own. I've dealt with them many times, which is why my skills will be useful here. What an incredible life! Though, it is not suited for someone like me. I agree, that is quite exceptional. However, I still find it odd you decided to join simply for generosity's sake. Well, I suppose I am getting something out of this. But you would have thought poorly of me if I just mentioned that this will be a nice point on a resume. No, that's fair. That's fair. Gotta be on that grind. In all honesty, Duke, the main reason I'm doing this is because I know with certainty the chance of success would have been lower without me. And watching someone walk off into a chase with Trinette may as well be watching someone walk off to the slaughterhouse. She's ruthless. I would never doubt your motives.
Ah, so if that's all...
Piper then turns and waves at Key, motioning for them to come over. Key doesn't look eager, but puts down their food and heads to where we are. I think we're done stretching now.
Good.
Good. Then everyone back into the carriage. January looks upset again, so I decide to speak up. We will be happy to do that, right? I really see no necessity. Even should some incident occur, I am certain I will be able to handle it. You need to start taking this more seriously. Right. It doesn't really matter if you can. It doesn't really matter if you can. It's better if nothing happens. Now go already. With a heavy sigh and a defeated look, January concedes and makes his way towards the carriage, dragging his feet the whole way. With that taken care of, I begin making my own way there. As he walks, he doesn't seem to be paying attention, and suddenly his foot catches on a root. He carelessly stumbles forward, just barely managing to catch himself before falling on his face. However, his opera glasses fly from his grasp as he falters. Oh no! The opera glasses! Before the inevitable impact, they instead stop and gently bop up and down in the air. All of us stop with them, staring at the floating frames. January straightens himself and his glasses rise with him, remaining close at his side. Well, that was rather close. He takes them again in his hand, trying to act as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. So that's how it is. You're abnormal. January looks uncomfortably at Key and Piper, but nods to me.
Ah, yes. That is so.
I would prefer if we kept this between our little party here. Key makes an explosive sigh and begins pacing around, waving their arms about. Of course! Of course! Of course! There's no other reason a family suddenly leaves the public eye, is there? No one should even be surprised! I kind of feel bad for Key, actually. Not gonna lie, I kind of feel bad for them. Well, this is going to be trouble. What now? Before I can even finish gathering my thoughts, Key makes a dash for the gadabout. I'm calling the captain right now. He has got to be informed of this. You know we're out of range. Key doesn't seem to hear this and continues the rush to their vehicle. For a few seconds we wait in silence until Key comes back over, dejected. We're out of range.
Seems like it.
What a shame. Alright everyone, into the carriage. We're heading back to Mier. Absolutely not. That is in no way reasonable. Going back is just heading towards danger. The best thing to do is to get to January's safe house. His abnormality can be dealt with after the threat of bounty hunters is over. We all just agreed that I have the final say here, and I say we need to go back. You're simply overreacting because of how unexpected this is. We all need some time to think before we can make a real call. My mind is made up. We need to go back. Weren't you the one who made us a team until this mission is finished? That's been nullified. 2 of you are criminals. 2?
Yes.
Yes, you and January. It's obvious now that you really are abnormal, and January was just covering for you. January and I look at each other, and he appears embarrassed. We need to make this right, and that means going back to Mier.
See?
Look, this is a pretty extenuating circumstance. I'm sure the rest of the force will understand if you don't report back this moment. Besides, he must have a way to fake test results. Even if you take him back, there's no guarantee you can prove he's not normal. So what then? Should I do it later? After he's had a chance to prepare, making it more difficult to resolve the issue, and give me less time to focus on truly dangerous criminals? Or do you expect me to turn a blind eye entirely because it's convenient? Yes. No, neither of those are reasonable. It has to be dealt with now. But we still can't even be sure we'll make it back. And, now that we know January is abnormal, keeping out of the hands of bounty hunters is more important than ever. Key, still looking unconvinced, doesn't have a chance to make another argument before Piper continues. You already said we weren't going to travel tonight. Why don't we sleep on it and make a decision tomorrow? We are all silent for a moment, and I wonder if Key will accept this compromise. Alright, we'll wait, but only if that means that come tomorrow you'll all agree to return to Mier if that's what I choose. And if we don't go? Then I'll have to place you under arrest, and any further resistance will make you fugitives. Let's not get too excited now. After we've had a chance to rest, we can talk about this more. Fine. Key storms off towards the gadabout again, the frustration evident with every step. Piper watches, then shakes her head.
All right, then.
Back to the carriage, you two. I think that's enough for one day. Neither of us comments further. Before I go in, I look once more at Piper. She gives me a slight smile. What would I do without her? The atmosphere here in this carriage with January is wholly unpleasant. He sighs loudly. I decide anything other than that is better to fill the quiet, and strike up a conversation. So, you're a riser then? Excuse me? That's the title of your ability. I am a seer. You are a riser.
I see.
Indeed. I was always curious at that. How did you get away with this? All abnormals need to live with other abnormals. Well, our family has a private physician. When I was born, my parents were told of my abnormality before it was made official. My mother found a way to brush it under the rug and have me recorded as normal. I didn't realize that was possible. Money makes everything possible. It isn't meant to be. I'm sure my mother did not have an easy time of it. January laughs shakily. A shame I could not maintain the deception just one more day. What use is there in worrying about that now? You still know what your future will be. I suppose so. And yet, I've tried so hard. He seems to be drifting into a sad mood, which makes the atmosphere rather uncomfortable again. In an effort to pull him out of it, I slyly plan to change the subject. I nudge him slightly, which makes him look up. That secret of yours is the true reason you have treated me so well all this time, isn't it? January gives a half smile. Yes, I have never met another abnormal before. At least none that revealed themselves to be such.
Meeting you was like a miracle.
Aww. I'm a miracle! Thanks, dude. Meeting you was okay. I think I feel a little of that as well. Being alone in a carriage with a strange normal would not have been ideal, haha. The mood lifts as I had hoped, and we both sit back more contentedly. I stare at the ceiling and my mind automatically drifts to Piper. If only I could speak to her some way. I bolt upright, making January start. What's happened? Do you know how to use the radio? I believe so, but Piper told us it was out of range. Not at the gadabout. Ah, I see. You wish to speak with Piper. I simply nod.
In that case...
I believe I can make it work for you. Very good. January bumbles to the front of the carriage, hitting his head against the top at least once, and begins fiddling with the controls. He puts his lanky stature to use to extend the portable speaker far enough back so I can reach it from my position. It is ready to be used as soon as I flip the switch. Tell me when you'd like to speak, and after that, just talk into that part of the device. I'm ready. January flips the aforementioned switch, and I look outside to see that Key is luckily still near the gadabout. It is good to have someone who can answer the call, but how long do they intend to glue themselves to that? Hello? Key flinches at the sudden sound, and January giggles beside me. Messing with Key probably is... Hey, Squidgoat. Just got back from cooking dinner. Nice, nice. And yes, Scapegoat, and yes, Vanna. I think I've just been talking to myself for like the past 15 minutes. It's fine. I almost did the same. Key, it is only us. Realization finally sinking in, Key reaches for what appears to be the speaker on the gadabout.
What?
What do you want? To talk to Piper. What about? You can't figure it out on your own. You're the one that accused me of being a real seer. Oh, right. That vision you mentioned yesterday. Exactly. Piper is essentially already my fiancée, so I wish to speak with her. To her. Even from here in the carriage, I can see Key roll their eyes. Piper isn't going to just stand around frittering the day away with you. That may or may not be true. Either way, I'd rather hear it from Piper. Key moves the speaking end away from their face and says something I can't hear, then pulls the mouthpiece back up. Fine, I'll go get her. Good, I'll be watching. For what? Key throws up their hands in dismay, then sets the radio down and walks over to Piper. The two look to have a brief conversation, and Piper turns towards the carriage. January and I both wave at her, and she gives a small wave back. She then strides elegantly over to the gadabout and picks up the radio.
Hello.
Hello, Piper. I'm so glad to hear you. Listen, Key is working on the gadabout, which means someone else has to watch the camp. You and January will just have to entertain yourselves for a while, okay? I'm about to say more, but Piper waves goodbye to us from where she's standing and sets the radio down. She signals over towards Key, who returns to their work on the gadabout. Without another glance, Piper walks back to the edge of the camp and continues her vigil. Damn! Shot down! I sit back in my seat and let the speaker fall from my hand. She is busy. We'll have to pass the time with just ourselves. Indeed. Night falls quickly in the forest as the trees increase the evening gloom. Soon, only a few strands of pale moonlight peek through the leaves, casting silvery lines across the ground. I keep looking out the front window, watching Piper as she walks around the perimeter of our camp. So reliable, so diligent, so beautiful. Soon she walks past the point where I can see her from the window. With a sigh, I lean back in my seat. The future is a curious thing. It's remarkable how everything has fallen together to make it happen. It is indeed peculiar, but what makes you say so now? I was thinking about this trip. I never would have come on this journey had it not been for my view of the future, and yet the future had already compensated for that fact and arranged itself so that the vision would be fulfilled. If I was a person who instead decided not to look into their future, what would have become of me would be entirely different. It was truly the best decision I have ever made.
I see.
I must say it is heartening to hear you say so. I always saw the future as something to be dreaded. The future cannot harm you. It is the present you need be concerned with. That's why I choose to look forward. Soon enough, though, my present will actually be worth putting up with. January looks out the window himself with a wistful look. I rather like the present I currently have, and wouldn't much like it altered. I must assume you have rather low standards. He doesn't appear to hear me, still lost in his own thoughts. It's just as well, since I have my own things to think on. For a while, we both remain in silence. January tries to stretch out, but within the confines of this carriage, his efforts don't amount to much. He looks out the window, scanning the surroundings. Night has fully come already. He cranes his face in my direction. Are you hungry? Perhaps it is time for dinner. I am a little, but we should tell Piper first before doing anything. So long as we eat only what is allotted for dinner, I'm sure Piper will have no objections. You're probably right. She is very reasonable. January nods and reaches back to pull out some more of the food storage. He chooses an apple and another packaged meal, handing them to me. He selects a similar meal for himself before casting another look towards the window. Suppose we eat outside instead. It is dark enough that there is no real possibility we will be observed. Perhaps, though if Piper says we should go back in, you'd better not throw a fit like earlier. January sighs in frustration. Fine. With the plan decided, together we exit the carriage, January opening the door for me. We step into the evening stillness, with the sound of night creatures singing and the gentle flowing of the river as our accompaniment. It doesn't take long for Piper to spot us and head our way. Perfect. Is something wrong? We decided to enjoy our evening meal outdoors. It is really too dark for anyone to see us now. Not necessarily. There are ways to see in the dark. Trinette's eyes aren't just for show. January and I stand a bit abashed, looking at each other. Piper gives us a small smile.
Sorry.
I think you should go back inside. This isn't good. I need to show Piper I thought this through. I understand that possibility, but if someone was skulking around with a device to see in the dark, they're likely already planning on attacking someone. Us being seen or not wouldn't make a difference. Piper pauses to reflect a moment. There's some truth to that, but that doesn't mean inside isn't the safest place. That style of carriage is designed to withstand attack, and is quite a pain to get into when locked. We intended to stay very close to the carriage. Indeed, I think Jamie makes a good point. I have decided to remain outside. Fine. For dinner, at least, you can stay outside. Afterwards, it's back in the carriage to get some sleep. We have to start early tomorrow. Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Now, since you're eating, I guess I might as well get something for myself. Remember not to go far. Piper heads towards the carriage, and I notice Key watching us from by the gadabout. They get up and head towards the carriage, likely to get food as well. I was not the only one watching. January's eyes followed the two for a few moments while looking somewhat uncomfortable.
So,
Why don't we suggest we all of us eat our meals together? It would be the polite thing to do. I mean, it is the polite thing to do, and, why not? Why not all eat together? Go ahead, ask if you want. I have no desire to eat with anyone other than Piper. However, I see no harm in being polite. I'm certain the four of us would not all agree to eat together. I agree too. I mean, you gotta agree. I'll eat together. Why not? Then I will. Once Piper and Key emerge from the carriage with their meals and begin walking their separate ways, January calls them over. Both look confused but come as bidden.
What?
What is it? If it's about eating outside, don't bother. If I had a problem, I'd have said something already. That's not it. We were wondering if you two would like to join our meal.
Oh?
How thoughtful of you to offer. I am not sure if that means you will or you won't. Why not? She is so sweet. Key will certainly refuse. How about you, Officer Key? Key shakes her head.
Nothing's changed between us.
You shouldn't want to sit with me. That situation and this one are not connected. Key doesn't look convinced when Piper nudges her arm with her elbow. Just sit with us. Key sighs and turns to walk away as expected. Piper stops them by grabbing their sleeve.
Huh.
It would be safer to stick together too, wouldn't you agree? I hadn't thought of that. I suppose I can put up with those other two if it gives Piper peace of mind. Fine. If you're all so persistent, I'll stay. Key plops down on the ground right where they're standing. The rest of us find places to sit as well, either on rocks or on the grass. I sit with my back mostly towards the others, so I can turn and eat under my mask. We all begin to eat in silence, and I notice Key eats somewhat similarly to me, pulling their scarf down just enough to take a bite and then putting it back into place. When it begins to seem as though no one will speak, Piper breaks the silence. I was wondering, Key, why don't you just take your scarf off to eat? Seems inconvenient, especially since we all know you're a they. Social customs aren't really so important out here. It's just how I do things. I'd rather not have to change now. Makes me wonder why you're out here wearing a dress. That doesn't seem very convenient either. Key's tone makes it sound as though Piper's action was almost criminal in nature, but Piper shrugs with great composure. I didn't have any other clothes prepared on such short notice. Normally I'd have more efficient outfits, but it's been a while since I've been out and about myself. If it was an option, I'd take the dress off.
You know.
I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind if you take it off. Yeah. Come on. I'm not gonna object to you taking the dress off. Just saying. I'm sorry, I got creepy there. I think I got pretty creepy there.
You know.
You didn't have to come if it was so troublesome. I just want to strike up a conversation. No need to be hostile. All adults know what naked humans look like. I mean, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, but... Key falls silent, taking a few more bites of their food. The atmosphere has grown distinctly uncomfortable, as seems to happen with our group. Honestly, I am surprised I was not the cause of this poor mood. Piper and Key give him flat looks, making it evident this comment was not appreciated. He laughs nervously under the stares. I mean, it was your idea to eat together. It was a joke. Oh, meant to be one. Well, now it is your fault the mood is off. I'm asexual, so nudity does nothing for me. Fair enough. January laughs nervously again, and Key just shakes her head. Piper smiles at least. Suddenly, Key smacks himself on the forehead and groans loudly. What was that for? I just realized I should have had you take off that mask for this trip. Even if you didn't have any clothes other than that cloak, the mask wouldn't have been necessary if you were actually normal. It's so obvious! Calm yourself. I could have simply made up an excuse to keep it on. Like that I have a disfiguring scar or something of that nature.
Don't worry about it.
I agree. It likely wouldn't have made a difference either way, so there's nothing to stress over, Key. Key hardly looks mollified, and appears to softly berate themselves for missing the opportunity. Conversation dies away again, and we finish our meal in silence. At last, Key rises, seeming glad the meal is finally over. Alright, back to the carriage. Piper gets up as well, decorously brushing the dirt and leaves from her clothes. Key's right, we should all get some sleep. I look sadly towards Piper. It was nice while it lasted. Very well. How shall sleeping arrangements be conducted? You and Jamie will have to share the carriage. It's the most secure. Piper and I will sleep outside. I would much rather stay outside too, but I know Piper would tell me to stay where it's safer. Understood.
Sleep well.
Glad to hear it. Sleep well, then. She waves us goodbye and wanders off into the darkness. Good night. Key nods in acknowledgement of Piper's gesture, then turns to us. Good night. Their tone implies right now, and they stand to watch us as if making sure we comply. With a shake of his head, January begins walking towards the carriage. I walk over to the carriage, but hesitate before going inside. I look back and see Key giving me an unhappy look. I stare at them for a few moments when Piper comes back over. She walks beside Key and seems to whisper something to them. I assume she told Key she would handle things because Key gives a slight huff and walks off. Piper strolls elegantly up to me, and I move towards her as well.
Hey.
It's time to go to sleep. I understand. I only wanted a moment longer outside. That's well and good, but the rest of us won't be able to relax until you're safely inside. My shoulders slump slightly. Of course. Can I at least say something before I go? Piper doesn't look totally pleased with my request, but she nods. As long as you don't propose to me again. No, I'll still wait for you to do that.
Just checking.
I'm very happy you've been so understanding of this situation, and grateful you stood up for me in January. I can respect extenuating circumstances. It's not the police force's fault that they don't have rules for this very specific situation, but it's also not wise to blindly follow a law that's only going to cause more trouble. You are so reasonable and level-headed. I really respect that. Is that all? Does that have to be all? Piper sighs.
Okay.
What else could you want to know? Well, I did want to ask. Let's see, ask about her current job, or ask if she believes what I saw in the vision. This one seems like it's just an excuse to keep talking to her. This one seems weirdly pushy. I think I'm inclined to ask her about this. I know you know that I am truly abnormal, but do you really accept what my vision showed me? Piper gives a sly smile. I don't see why you would lie about that. I'm glad. You didn't give much of a response, so I wasn't sure.
I'm fine.
Just because I believe it doesn't mean I'm going to react to it. Why not? Isn't that the way one is supposed to handle seeing the future? Ah, yes, that's true. How much do you know about abnormal society? I know more than most normals, but less than abnormals. Well, excluding January. This makes me chuckle. Thinking of him being abnormal is still so strange to me. Piper's expression becomes serious. Since we're on the topic anyways, why are you centering your life around what you saw when you know it's a bad idea? My future showed me leaving the sanctuary, so it was decided that I leave quietly, rather than being left there to potentially cause a stir at some point.
Regardless.
That explains why your leaders let you leave, but it doesn't explain why you insist on following me. If we're going to get together, there's no need for you to go out of your way to make it happen. She makes a good point. My head droops down. That's true as well. I had intended to follow what I'd been taught, but since coming out here, that has been difficult. I get the feeling you'd be questioning those teachings even if you were still in the sanctuary. I can't hide anything from you. Don't feel too bad, at least. Tradition isn't enough to sway everyone. As long as you try a little harder to make less rash decisions, it should be fine. Thank you, Piper. You always know how to cheer me up.
Goodbye.
Yes. Now it's really time for you to go to bed. All right. Good night. Piper waves me off, and I turn back to the carriage. She watches out for me to make sure I get inside, and then I close the door for the night. Hey. I'm taken out of a full sleep by some noise and stir slightly. However, it must have been nothing, so I try to settle back down. Hey. There it is again. Are you awake? If not, I'm going to keep talking till you are. I open my eyes and sit up, looking around. Sunlight is peeking through the curtains, and I realize it's morning. The carriage seats prove to be a less than comfortable bed, but good enough. I notice January sat up as well from his position on the floor. His monocle is still off, and he blinks sleepily. I look around, bemused for the source of the intrusion. Hello? If you two are awake in there, tell me. Oh. Finally coming to my complete senses, I realize it's Key's voice coming from the radio. January easily reaches into the control area and picks up the speaker. Yes, we're awake.
Good.
Good. You can have breakfast if you want, but you have to stay inside the carriage. Honestly, why did you wake us if all you were going to do was tell us to stay here? I already let you two sleep long enough. Too much sleep is just as bad as not enough. You shouldn't complain.
Is that all?
We are awake now. If you have nothing more to add, I'm going to turn the volume of your side off. We have no need for your lectures.
Understand?
Yeah, that's all. Leave the sound on. I may need to talk to you later. Fine. January sets the speaker down and mimics Piper by immediately ignoring Key's order and turning the radio off. He moves in an uncharacteristically slow way back to his original place on the floor and looks at me with droopy eyes. Feel free to get some more sleep, Jamie. I can't imagine you slept well in such a position. Key likely won't let me speak with Piper, and I am tired. I think I will lie back down. Wake me if Piper comes by.
Of course.
I lay back down as best I can on the carriage seats. I rise, not feeling any more rested, and see January sitting on the floor, his monocle back in place. How long has it been? January smiles slightly. Only a few minutes. With a heavy sigh, I sit up fully. It's no use. It's too hard to go back to sleep now. Well, we could talk for a bit if you'd like something to do. I shrug in response. January is not the best conversation partner one could have. I wonder what they will decide to do now. I cannot see Key taking us back to the city. They lack the nerve to disagree with all of us. Besides, Piper is amazing and persuasive. She'll certainly be able to talk Key out of this ridiculous idea of going back. I thought as much myself. Still, it grates upon me to think I am excluded from the discussion, even though it is I and my family's safety most at stake. I suppose, now that they know I am abnormal, my opinion no longer matters. I don't know about Key, but I know Piper cares about the opinions of abnormals. If that were true, why isn't she trying to include me in this important decision? Likely because she does not need your assistance, or because she worries Key will whine about it. Probably correct. But the correct choice will be the conclusion either way, so you should be grateful. Very well. Good. I prefer your presence on those rare occasions when you're not fussing about something. January turns away from me, seeming annoyed. And I prefer speaking to you when you're not fixated on Piper. I can't stop myself from gasping. What an outrageous thing to say. Simping is 90% of my personality. How dare you? Simping is a core part of who I am. You blasphemer! I frown behind my mask, considering. I suppose I may be able to see how someone would tire of hearing about the happiness of someone else. However, I don't know what he expects me to fixate on instead. I can admit that neither of us are flawless. I will attempt to speak of it less, at least when it is just the two of us together. Thank you. Silence reigns for several seconds, and I sigh as I think about Piper. Yep. Back to simping! I promise I'll try not to simp so much. Thank you. Simping intensifies. January also sighs. If you can think of nothing else, we can speak about Piper. Called out. God, just call me out, why don't you? Very well. What I want to know is how I can make Piper like me more and pay more attention to me. She seems to believe what I told her about the future, but acts as if it doesn't matter at all. Perhaps you are coming on too strong. Maybe you need to stop making the vision the issue. Would that mean spending less time around her? Not necessarily. Maybe you could try treating her just as a normal person, rather than focusing solely on the fact that she is your future spouse. She might not be one who enjoys excessive amounts of praise. My praise is not excessive. However, that is not a terrible suggestion. She is so humble, I may give it a try.
I am glad.
I sincerely hope it helps. The next moment there is a knock on the carriage door, making both of us start slightly. Come in? The door is pulled open and Piper appears, smiling beautifully. What a gift and such perfect timing.
Good morning.
Hello, how are you two doing this morning? I'm doing markedly better now that you are here. I wonder, is that too much? I am also doing well. Lovely. It is wonderful to see you, but I am curious. Have you come here for a reason? Have you already convinced Key to continue on to January's safe house? I appreciate the vouch of confidence. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to talk to Key about it. Then have you come to visit me? Not exactly. Key doesn't seem too keen on discussing the issue, so I came to get breakfast, sir, first. They're coming as well, so be calm. Just as Piper said, Key appears before us, looking sour. Good morning, Key. Greetings. Neither of our hellos are very enthusiastic, but Key doesn't seem to notice. They give us both a halfway without even looking our way.
So then.
Right. Since we're all here, there's something I want to ask you, Jamie. Now the secret is out, do you want us to keep calling you Jamie or go back to calling you Seer? I hadn't thought of it. Thinking on it now, I'd have to say I'd rather be called... let's keep the normal name. Let's keep our normal name. I am still in your society. Using a normal society name will be fine. Everyone nods, and Piper heads off with some food. Key also snatches up their breakfast and hurries away. January opens his mouth to speak, but just then the outside door at the control area of the carriage opens. It is Piper again. She secures the door to the outside wall of the carriage so that it remains propped open and smiles at us. This way you can get some fresh air, even if you can't go outside. She then leans against the side of the carriage near the secured door. Thank you, Piper. So does this mean you're going to stay here?
Seems like it.
For a time, yes. And she nonchalantly takes a bite out of the apple she was having for breakfast. How wonderful. Uh-huh. And she takes another bite. So, how are you doing, Piper? Fine, thank you. That's good. Thank you for agreeing to continue on to the safe house.
Don't worry about it.
I wouldn't want you caught by bounty hunters. It was the obvious choice. It's good we have at least one person in their right mind leading. Key just isn't interested in making the best decisions.
Maybe. Maybe not.
They are still quite uptight though, right? They are certainly that. Piper continues her string of odd actions when she reaches into the control room and pulls out the corded radio speaker, flipping the switch so Key can hear our end. She then takes her packaged meal, which she hasn't opened yet, and holds it next to the speaking part of the radio. I watch intently, trying to decipher the purpose of any of this. She squeezes the middle of the bag, causing the end to bulge, until the package pops open with a loud burst. Key, who was sitting by the gadabout, suddenly jumps up in alarm and confusion. They look around, finally fixing on Piper. Even from here, I can see their eyes narrow. Damn! Nice bit of trolling there. I can't help it and start laughing. January joins me, and Piper silently waves at Key with her silky smile. Key hardly looks impressed, leaning down to pick up their own food package, which they dropped upon being startled. Piper puts the radio back into the carriage and undoes the door hold.
Goodbye.
Breakfast is over. I'm going to talk to Key. Yeah, pissing them off before... Pissing them off is definitely the right approach to take before having a serious conversation with them. January says nothing, but both Piper and I notice the immediate change in his face. Don't worry, Duke. I'll make sure you get to your safe house. She gives us a winsome look before closing the door and walking away. January slumps back in his seat, shaking his head. She is simply amazing. January just laughs softly once more. So, well, do you think it will take long? Not at all. We move closer to the window on my side. Out there we see Piper has made it to Key's side near the gadabout. Everything is fine when suddenly Key makes another upset expression. They fix a glare on the carriage. What's got them so worked up now? I don't know. Key seems to think we did something. They turn from us and say something to Piper. Both of them look with interest at the gadabout. Perhaps we should inquire about the situation? Seems like a good idea, actually. Yes, I think we should. Then let us proceed. We quickly make our way to the others, and I hear some kind of static coming from the gadabout. Is something wrong with that? Key shushes me, not looking away from the crackling vehicle. Then Piper speaks in a whisper. Our radio has picked up someone else's signal. Shh. And the channel is two-way. We can hear them, they can hear us. Oh my, what should we do? Key flips the radio off entirely. Nothing. We have no time for this now. It's probably no one worth talking to anyway.
Exactly.
Yes, you two should head back to the carriage. I hang my head, sad I can't remain with Piper for longer. It's been about 20 minutes now since we returned to the carriage, and still no resolution. Do you suppose they're close to finishing? I imagine so. January stretches out a little and glances outside in the process. He abruptly stops, mid-arm extension, gasping. What? Did you see something? I take a peek before he has a chance to respond, and pinpoint the cause of his reaction right away. Outside, standing close to Piper and Key, is a third person. Is that a bounty hunter? I don't believe so. Those who were pursuing him back in Mier all wore uniforms, which this person does not have. I suppose it could be an unrelated bounty hunter, but there shouldn't have been any way for some other group to learn of where we went. In that case, what reason would one have to come this way? Do you think it is the owner of the radio we connected to?
I suppose.
That seems likely. And it could perhaps be someone who strongly believes in having privacy. Almost everyone remains within the city limits. Other than that, it could always be some other kind of criminal. As January says this, we see Key punch the stranger square in the face, knocking them down. What? Oh dear! I gasp, leaning closer to the window to get a better look at, and January does in kind. I then notice more people beginning to emerge from the trees. More are coming. I'm going out to help. So will I. Is that really wise? Of course. I can be of assistance. What good will sitting here do? Staying safe and out of sight is the task you are given. But I will be safe. Your vision showed me that plainly enough. I do not enjoy having that turned against me, January. Without heeding me further, he pushes out of the carriage. We rush out the door, and for a moment everyone, Key, Piper, and the attackers, all turn towards us. Key and Piper look at us with anger. Get back inside, you dimwits! It's not safe! You are outnumbered. We came to help. We'll be fine, just go! I'm sure you will be, but I would still like to help. You being inside would be the biggest help I could ask for. As those two shout, I notice one of the bandits approaching January from behind. I look around quickly and spot a relatively large rock nearby. Seizing it, I rush forward and bash the bandit on the back of the head, knocking him to the ground. If you continue this, there is a definite chance you will be arrested.
I will be fine.
I think we can acquit ourselves well enough. Key dodges a punch, then kicks their attacker in the stomach, making him double over in pain. Despite all the exertion, Key continues to yell at us between heavy breaths.
Move!
This ain't a debate! Get back inside! January makes no attempt to run. Key rolls her eyes and dashes towards us, with Piper close behind as she disengages from her own opponent after noticing Key's intentions. Key grabs January's right arm and Piper his left, and they forcibly drag him towards the carriage. Let go! I run to catch up with the other three. For a moment I glance over my shoulder and see the criminals are charging towards us, which quickens my pace. The four of us pile into the carriage, and I slam the door shut behind us, engaging the heavy lock. Through the window I can see the strangers surrounding us, and some of them begin to pound on the carriage door. January becomes a bit more aggressive and tugs free of Key and Piper, scowling at them. Is this really an improvement? Yes. Piper shrugs, panting slightly.
Trust me.
For now. There's little chance they'll be able to break into the carriage. All we have to do is wait until those thieves get tired and give up. Yes, I am sorry I wasn't able to convince January to remain here in the first place. Piper, seemingly done with the conversation, climbs past us, entering the control room. Are you going to try running them over? Piper gives a laugh with very little humor in it.
Who knows?
Who knows? For now, I'm going to try the radio. Piper moves the curtain so that the bandits see what she's doing. She clicks the button and then begins mouthing into the speaker, as if having a conversation. She then puts the radio down and smiles smugly. Hopefully they'll think I called for backup and get scared. Aha! Very clever. Just then, the carriage gives a hideous lurch as all the bandits push against it. They're tipping us! Start the carriage! Piper works frantically with controls, and the carriage engine roars to life. Before she can get it to move at all, the whole vehicle tips to one side, and we all tumble sideways as it comes crashing down. For a moment, I can't see anything. Someone is right on top of me, and I feel myself being crushed into the wall of the carriage beneath me. Is everyone all right? Piper and January both call out, confirming their well-being. I am not. I am being uncomfortably squished and my eye holes are covered.
Pardon me?
Hold on, let me try and move. Stop, you are making it worse. At least the carriage still seems intact, which means those bandits will probably still leave soon. We just have to sit tight until then. As you say. It takes a little while, but eventually the bandits cease their attempts to break into the carriage, and a short time after it becomes silent. No one attempts to leave until it's been quiet several minutes. Then Piper, who is nearest the top, pushes her way through the door. She reports that the coast is clear, and so we all pile out. It is immensely relieving not to be getting squished anymore. After we're all back on the ground outside, Key steps up to the carriage and leans forward, smacking their head against the side. They sit there, forehead pressed to the vehicle, and sigh heavily. Is everyone all right? Piper dusts herself off before answering.
I'm fine.
I'm glad to hear that, Piper. I'm also fine. Oh, you have something stuck on the back of your dress. I'll get it for you. That's all right. I can get it myself. Thank you for pointing it out. Happy to help. Key says nothing, remaining where they are with their head against the carriage. Now what are we going to do? With a grumble and another sigh, Key finally pulls away from the carriage.
All right.
We need to get the carriage back upright and see if it still works. With some rope, I should be able to do it using the gadabout. We're lucky they didn't have enough sense to try taking that before they left. With how competent they seem to be, they probably wouldn't have been able to force it to start even if they had tried. I can't help laughing at how Piper rightly mocks those pathetic thieves from before. Such simpletons. Key just shrugs, not looking the least bit happier. Piper, you dig through the carriage supplies and find a few ropes. I'll bring the gadabout over here. I suppose you'd rather have me do nothing at all? Yes, definitely. And you too, Jamie. I roll my eyes under my mask. Key heads towards the gadabout, and once they're out of earshot, Piper turns to January. How would you like to get the rope for us? What? Why? You seem like you want something to do. Besides, my dress would likely get in the way while digging around an overturned carriage, and your long arms make you better suited to the job regardless. Seems reasonable to me. After a moment's consideration, January nods and climbs back up and into the carriage. Piper gives a satisfied smile. The two of us lapse into silence while January keeps up his search. Looking at Piper, I tilt my head, feeling like something is wrong. Then I realize what it is. One of your earrings is missing. Piper reflexively touches her ears.
Seems like it.
So it is. It must have fallen over when we toppled over. I mean, it's probably in the carriage. Got a few minutes? Let's look for it.
Really?
Why? Hey, Grefmat. I still intend to transition at some point. Well, we have some time, and I wouldn't mind helping out. And January is in the carriage anyway. He can look in there while I look outside. Finding the rope should be his only focus. We aren't in an ideal situation right now. We've got to get this finished as soon as we can. You're right, I'm sorry. But I can still take a quick look around myself.
All right, then.
Alright, but don't go too far. I'll tell Key what you're doing when they get back. I understand. I'm in my I don't give a fuck here, so I would have said the oh well choice. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's probably replaceable, but I mean, it's whatever. I've got time. Like, I'm not doing anything. Yep. I'll take a quick look around, see if I can find it. You never know. Not like I'm doing anything else. Not like I'm busy. I wave slightly before I trot off and begin my search. Not that I care about your choices. I care about you. Thanks, Graf. Both choices fair. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's one of those cases where like either option is valid. Like, it's replaceable, right? Like, it's an earring. It's not a big deal, right? And she didn't seem broken up about it. Yeah, like she was like, oh, you're right. She didn't seem broken up, so presumably it's not some, family heirloom that can never be replaced. It's just an earring. So, it's replaceable, right? It's like, yeah, sure. It's not a big deal, right? Sure. Could be a magic earring. Again, she didn't see, like, if it was magic, she would have been like, oh, shit. Like, it wasn't even like, damn. It was, It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. It actually doesn't take long. I find it on the ground near where we all exited the carriage. Maybe she's trying to play it off. She does seem that type. Look, I found it after all. For a moment, she looks truly taken aback. Regaining her smile, she takes the earring from my hand and slips it back into its rightful place. Hey! Balance is restored achievement. You brought that beautiful pair back together. I got an achievement for that. That's funny, I didn't realize that was an achievement. Yeah, balance is restored achievement. You brought that beautiful pair back together. Now she can achieve her final form exactly. Thank you. I had figured it was buried in the carriage supplies and I could have found it later. I'm pleased I was able to look for it then. I found it in some grass by the carriage and it would have been a shame if it had gotten left behind.
Is that so?
I'll have to take better care of it from now on. Graphomat! Thank you for the membership. Thank you for joining. Welcome to the membership, Graphomat. You can do whatever you like. It is yours. I try to keep my excitement down. Still, this couldn't have been better. Piper smiles slightly at me. Alright. I have no idea what to do from here, so I just keep quiet. I think it's probably good enough for now. My eyes drift over to where Key is working on the gadabout a little ways off. I have to turn my head quite a bit to see out of the eye holes on my mask. What are you looking at? Her comment is somewhat unexpected. I focus my gaze back on her. I'm a little unimpressed by the gadabout. Piper's eyebrow arches.
What do you think?
Do they not use gadabouts in the sanctuary? No, they don't. Why do you ask? Normal people don't bat an eye at gadabouts. Really? Thank you for telling me. The sanctuary is very small, so there's no need to speed up personal transportation. Still, since I'm in normal society, maybe someday I'll use one.
What do you think?
Oh, I'm a little impressed. I'm a little impressed by the gadabout.
What do you think?
Maybe, but not on this trip. I nod. Of course. Just then, the gadabout rumbles up beside me, and Key turns it off and hops out. Where's January? Did you get the rope? As if in response, January emerges through the door currently at the top of the carriage, rope in hand. Key looks equally surprised and irritated. I told you to look for that. Piper doesn't bother with a response and simply flicks her hands to the side.
You know.
I know this wasn't a big task, but it's still important that you... Abruptly, Key cuts off. This isn't the time for that. January, give me the rope. Hey, Uncle Buck. January climbs down and hands the rope over. Key accepts it without looking at him.
So then.
So, is the gadabout ready then? Almost. I need to get a wrench from the carriage before I can finish. Should I get it for you? Oh, thanks, Pansy. It's not...
I'll take care of it.
No, I'll just do it myself. Welcome, Bansy. Thank you for the membership, Bansy. Key makes her exit before anyone can say anything else, climbing into the carriage. If now isn't the time to insist we follow orders, when is? Let it be. I'd rather not have Key insist on that. They're not a terribly impressive decision-maker.
Who knows?
Either way, you realize Key could possibly still hear us. And so what? Aha! The three of us stand in silence for a few seconds when the sound of static comes from nearby. After that brief moment of shock, I remember the wayward signal. Key must have accidentally switched the gadabout radio on again while retrieving it. Or maybe they were testing it to make sure it still worked. Piper moves closer and is about to turn it off when the sound of voices cuts through the static. She hesitates, then steps back, turning to us and speaking softly. Maybe we should talk to whoever's on the other end? For what reason? For all we know, it could be our sounds familiar.
Perhaps.
Could be. Still, there's no reason we have to tell them who we are. And if they press, we can make them think we're the rescue party I pretended to call for. I highly doubt those bandits would expect us to try and tap into their radio just to impersonate someone else. That's a marvelous idea. January starts smiling like a child.
Indeed.
That is true. Now you put it that way, this sounds rather exciting. Yes, I would also like to know what is happening on the end of this connection. And I believe I should be the one to talk. I said very little when the bandits were here, so they shouldn't recognize my voice. Alright, I'll stand by to cut the radio if things go south. Good luck. Getting the go-ahead, I carefully pick up the radio and speak into it. Hello? The sounds on the other end pause, then I hear what seems to be movement. Hello? I know someone is listening on the other end. There is another pause, and finally a true response. Hello there. Who am I speaking to? Trinette. And you? January stifles a gasp, though Piper appears surprisingly calm. She silently urges me to keep talking. This is Jamie, and I suppose I am connected to the wrong signal. I was looking for someone else.
I understand.
I figured as much. Who were you trying to reach then? A friend of mine. Is that so?
Your voice is ringing bells for me.
Say, by any chance, have you ever met a woman with glowing eyes before? Your voice is ringing bells for me. I've barely registered the question before Piper pulls me close and whispers rapidly. Don't bother trying to hide it now. If she's asking that question, you must already have a guess of who you are. Saying no will only make her more suspicious. I feel my face warming being so close to Piper. I do what I can to get myself together. Can't let her down. Indeed I have. Just a couple days ago, back in the air, in fact. That's right, we have met, haven't we? You're the seer, aren't you? So she knew what the color of my cloak meant. Yes, I've been using a normal name since people have had trouble with my real name.
What a pity.
Well, hon, how's Piper doing? Are you two officially engaged yet? Ah, not yet. Things are going fine, though. That's good. Piper deserves a nice person to settle down with. Something about her tone makes me edgy. Could she and Piper have exchanged comments like this before? Or was that meant as an insult? I look at Piper and she merely rolls her eyes. And you know, I'm impressed they haven't sent you back to the sanctuary yet. You must be good at avoiding people. Not exactly. I was caught and brought to the police station. I am now living under some surveillance. I'm not allowed to say where, or even give hints because people aren't supposed to know this is a police hideout.
Interesting.
Really interesting. Piper and January both smile at my improvisation. I think it is quite clever as well. It is mostly the truth after all. When are they shipping you back? I haven't been told. They seem quite busy with some other problem I have no interest in. Suffice it to say, there aren't any officers who can assure of my arrival back home. Did you hear anything from Piper? No, Piper prefers not to talk about negative things like that with me. You don't say. Well, it must be a strange case indeed if they can't afford to spare officers to escort you, but still keep someone around to watch you. Well, truthfully, I'm not being watched around the clock. I don't have anywhere else I can go, and all I really wanted was to keep in touch with my friend, which they let me do. It's mostly the honor system now.
How nice.
Convenient. Though irresponsible for those police officers. I laugh, partly in relief that I've managed to keep the story going. We are agreed. It doesn't surprise me that it's taking them so long to fix this supposed issue. I hear Trinette chuckle in a way that could possibly be genuine. Piper leans over and whispers in my ear again. Stop letting her lead the conversation. She'll get you to slip up eventually. Try to ask her something. So, what have you been doing since I last saw you? A little of this, a little of that. Are you still in Muir? Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. If you're still in town after things settle down a bit, I'd like to treat you to dinner sometime.
Consider it an apology for pointing a gun at you and all that.
Oh, pish posh. Thank you for the offer, but I shouldn't be out in public. I'd make too much of a scene. Besides, would any restaurant even be willing to serve someone dressed as suspiciously as I am? You'd be surprised, darling. I know a few places that don't ask questions. It's a trap! On the other hand, I mean, she seems pleasant enough. She even apologized for pointing a gun at me. She seems like a nice enough, ruthless bounty hunter. You know, for a ruthless bounty hunter, she seems quite pleasant. I see no harm in accepting the dinner invitation. Oh, and don't take that as a strike against their quality. You can get some of the best food at places with the worst reputations. Ah, who knows? If I get the chance, maybe I'll take you up on that offer. It's a date. Well, I'd best be going now. Work awaits. Though if you're ever in the mood to chat again, you're free to tap back into this line. It must be dreadfully boring being in partial police custody like that. You're too kind. Goodbye.
So long.
The radio on her end clicks off. We all let out a sigh in unison. You know, it is almost a shame Trinette is a horrible bounty hunter. She would make for such a decent person otherwise. That's what I'm saying! Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She seems really nice. Watch her to turn out to be the most wholesome bounty hunter. Oh no, she's terrible. She is vicious and ruthless. She's polite and everything. She's polite when she's not being violent. But no, she will fuck a person. She will fuck people up. Piper shakes her head. Don't believe a word of what she just said just then. Trinette is only searching for information. She's too far gone for friendly talks.
Well,
no one is completely heartless. Trust me, she is. If you know what's good for you, you'll remember that. She's polite when she's not murdering people. Exactly. For the first time, Piper actually sounds truly angry. Trust me, she is. If you know what's good for you, you'll remember that. For the first time, Piper actually sounds truly angry. January and I look at each other, clearly both wondering what's making her react so strongly. Neither of us have a chance to ask, as Key returns, wrench in hand. Just letting you know, I did see what happened there. I didn't want to interrupt in case it trip you up, but you should never have started that conversation in the first place. Key cuts off any possibility of rebutting with a raised hand.
I'm busy.
You three clear out for now. I've got things to fix and ropes to tie, and no one better touch the radios from now on. With nothing else to say, we all move quietly away. Alright, this seems actually like a good place to stop, because I've hit the 2-hour mark, a little bit extra. Throat's getting sore from all that talking. Throat sore from all that talking, and I still have to record another episode of Final Fantasy V. On a side note, I really like the music in this game. It's very pretty music in this game. Already said, but I appreciate the narration. Sorry, Uncle Buck. Yeah. This is why I prefer games that have, that are already fully voiced. This is why I prefer games that have full voiceovers. Helps protect my throat a bit. Anyway. Thanks for watching. And, I'll see you all when I see you. I'll be back Sunday night. I will be back Sunday night, 2:30 in the morning. So, until then, good night, everybody.